Good afternoon and welcome to CA World. So in this session, what I will do, I'm Sudriti Mondal. I'm a senior principal consultant out of the pre-sales organization in the West, and I've been kind of working with BlazeMeter, the company that CA has acquired a little over a month ago, and which provides performance testing solutions. So I'll quickly walk you through an overview of the solution, and then followed by a quick demonstration. So this is a half an hour session, so I'll try to run through the slides a little bit, and if you have any questions, just feel free to ask, so that we can spend some time on the demonstration. So in today's application economy, customer experience is very important. So customers uses applications, whether it's web, mobile, or even API, for various reasons. They use it for business, for information, for services, and they expect good customer experience out of it. Which means that your applications now need to perform well, and that is very important. Otherwise, it can take loyalty away, it can take the business away from your company to another organization. And why is performance important? Because 68% of users will demand application uptime in 6 seconds or less, and 25% of customer install base are at risk if your application does not deliver the customer experience that they are expecting. So this is where BlazeMeter comes in, because performance of an application is a key part of a customer experience. So what does BlazeMeter provide? It provides you the speed. It first of all helps you understand how your application is behaving. It also helps you scale your application. So you can now go and reach out to users who were not able to be serviced through your applications without compromising on quality and with a lower cost than traditional legacy performance test solutions. So BlazeMeter allows you to democratize performance testing in the continuous delivery era. And how does it do that? Typically, or historically, if you look at, performance test has been a COE function. So Center of Excellence teams, they would tell you what to performance test, and it'll happen towards the end of your SDLC, just before the software is released to production. But with BlazeMeter, you don't have to do that anymore. BlazeMeter allows you to shift left your performance testing more towards developers. It allows to integrate with your continuous integration, so that every time you do a build, you do performance testing. So what is BlazeMeter? So BlazeMeter is the next generation SaaS and on-premise continuous performance testing solution that allows you to test your application during an SDLC, post-production, in production, and so on. So it's a pure SaaS solution, meaning that no setup is required. You can just go to www.blazemeter.com, sign up for a trial, and then you can start testing without having to interact with anybody or without no installation. It supports, it's 100% open source compatible, meaning that BlazeMeter, in other words, is JMeter in the cloud. If you're familiar with JMeter, JMeter is an open source tool that enables developers to run performance tests locally from their laptops, desktops. And it has a lot of capabilities that people like, which is why more than 200,000 developers and testers use JMeter. And what BlazeMeter is, it's basically a commercial version of JMeter that allows you to run JMeter in the cloud. It does a lot more, and I'll kind of walk you through quickly about it. So with BlazeMeter, you can run tests in public cloud, in VPN, virtual private cloud, and also behind the firewall. So it has a concept of private locations where you can have agents running inside the firewall to drive performance tests. It's massively scalable, so you can run over 2 million plus virtual users to drive load to your applications, and it has a lot of developer traction because of the open source foundation of it. So more than 200,000 developers use JMeter, and BlazeMeter is kind of based on that, which is why BlazeMeter has the traction. So if you go to Google and type JMeter, you'll see BlazeMeter come up, because BlazeMeter provides you a good free online JMeter training that people like it. So what are some of the advantages? So JMeter doesn't provide the enterprise level grade capabilities. That's what is provided by BlazeMeter. So in terms of enterprise features and integrations, it provides capability to scale. So with JMeter, you can only run it to so many locations. You may have developers running 10 JMeter, but how do you aggregate the report? How do you summarize the report? How do you get a full picture of how your application performance test has executed? And that's what BlazeMeter provides. It does the aggregation. It does the summarization. It provides you a high-level picture of how your performance test went, how your application is behaving under load. So it provides reporting, a variety of reports. It enables you to scale to multi-million users. Security, so when it spawns up the load generators across multiple different regions in the world, it runs the scripts from there. After the performance test completes, it shuts it down, deletes the script. So there is definitely a security element that is provided by BlazeMeter. And of course, the support, right? A lot of the open source solutions that are there that are popular, say for example, Git, it's an open source, but there is GitHub that provides you the support, the help that you need, and the additional features that you need to make it enterprise capable. And that's what BlazeMeter addresses. So I talk about BlazeMeter supporting JMeter. It is something that we started with, but now we support more than 9 open source tools with what we call TARUS. So TARUS is an open source initiative by BlazeMeter that helps you run other scripts, like support other performance test tools like Gatling, Grinder, Locust, Selenium. There are many customers who do browser-based testing using Selenium. So you can integrate that into JMeter test into BlazeMeter. So now you're running Selenium scripts in the cloud across 1,000 different locations. So what can BlazeMeter do for you? I've talked about performance testing, any website, mobile app, and API. It's pure SaaS, no setup required, 100% open source compatible, basically supporting JMeter and providing enterprise features, which supports public cloud, virtual private cloud. It's massively scalable, automatically integrates with APM and CI. I haven't talked about that. So this is an area. So JMeter tells you if a performance test fails. But when it fails, how do you know what failed under the cover, right? What is the component that didn't meet the threshold that you're looking for? And that's where integration with APM tools like CAPM, Dynatrace, AppDynamics, New Relic gives you better insight into if it's a Java application, what EJB didn't function, what database call is taking more time than expected to, so that you can then pinpoint the issue and identify the issue and solve the problem. Integration with CI tools. So BlazeMeter integrates with Jenkins, with Bamboo and TeamCities. So when you're doing a build, you can kick off a performance test of the component so that immediately after the build, you run a performance test. And if that component doesn't meet the threshold that is needed in terms of performance, that build fails. It goes back to the developer. So developer can now go and optimize it, tune it, and then go through the process of checking in so that continuous integration can then check the performance of that component before it goes to the next levels in the SDLC. So what is the benefit of that? The big benefit of that is you're identifying performance problems much earlier in the SDLC, where it's easier to fix, cheaper to fix, than realizing the issue later in production when customers are not able to log into your application. Reporting, I talked about it. It's definitely a number of different reports that are provided, and I'll show you in the demo. And then all of the functionality, feature functionality that you see in the application are exposed through APIs. So we use APIs to interact with our application, which you can use to integrate BlazeMeter into your application, your CI, your release automation tools to kick off performance testing with your builds and continuous delivery cycles. So what are the typical use cases you see with BlazeMeter? Web performance scenarios. So customers may go to a domain, they may log in, and they may browse some products, add to cart, a typical maybe Walmart type of scenario, like shopping cart, and then check out, right? A mobile app scenarios where you can use BlazeMeter to test APIs that are used by mobile applications to make sure that mobile applications perform the way it's expected. and continuous testing scenario. So this is where you can use BlazeMeter to integrate performance testing, shift left performance testing close to the developer. So immediately after a build, you kick off a performance test using plugins of CI tools that you may be using. So what are the components of BlazeMeter? Execution, this is the execution engine. So if you're running load tests, you need load generators, and you need to be able to simulate all of the virtual users. You want to make sure that you're able to capture the reports and aggregate them. So that's basically what execution and reporting does. And then collaboration, like it has a concept of organizations and projects. So if you have multiple different projects in your organizations, every kind of software development factory has. So you can collaborate between teams so that you can share the load testing scripts that you're using to test the components. You can share the results of your performance tests with other teams. So they understand, they have a full picture of how your components behaving, how are in terms of performance, and they can then plan their performance tests accordingly. Continuous integration, so this is where we do provide integration with CI tools like Jenkins and Bamboo, but in addition, we also have the open source initiative called TARUS that allows you to run other open source performance tool scripts in BlazeMeter to scale and in the cloud. These are some of the tests that we support. So URL test, basically go to a URL and test it, run JMeter test. So if you can run scripts already created in JMeter, and we support JMeter 3.0 full functionality. You can just upload it and run it. If there is test data involved, you can upload the test data too. If there is any additional plugins involved, you can upload the jar as well, and you can run it. Multi-test is where you may have a scenario where you're running API test, when you're running web UI test and JMeter test, and maybe Selenium test together. So you can combine, mix and match all of them, and then create a multi-test, and you can run it where it will run the load generators, and then it'll synchronously start the test execution. So your application will get the load directly in different fronts, from API, from a URL, from a browser front, to give you a full picture of how your application is behaving. TARUS is the open source initiative that I mentioned that allows you to support additional open source testing, performance testing tools. These are some of the reports, and I'll show you summary report, timeline report, errors, request, stats report. I'll walk you through in the demo. These are some of the cloud providers. So we support AWS locations around the world, Google locations, and Azure. We also support what we call private locations. So if you would like to do performance testing inside your firewall, we provide on-premise agent that can be installed inside the firewall, as long as the agent can communicate outside the cloud to fetch what performance test it needs to execute. As long as it's able to send the stats and the metrics back to BlazeMeter in the cloud, you can use private locations to run performance tests for applications that are inside your firewall, as well as in your CI/CD process. So here is a quick look at the architecture of BlazeMeter, and this, I believe, is my last slide, or maybe before. So BlazeMeter sits in the cloud. And if you can use it to run a load test in public cloud directly. It's test orchestration and real-time result feedback to the cloud, which you can access through the BlazeMeter portal. And in addition, BlazeMeter also allows you to run a load test inside the firewall using agents, both virtual private cloud as well as on-premise. And you can integrate with CI tools or CA release automation tools through API to kick off BlazeMeter test as well as to get results. In addition, if you would like to use command line tools, so you can also do that and use TARUS to create a test scenario using a domain-specific language like YAML, and then run it in BlazeMeter. So these are some of the different ways, and I've kind of covered it quickly, but if you have any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer that before I go to the demo. Good. So if you want to try out BlazeMeter, you go to www.blazemeter.com. You can sign up, and then it's free to sign up, and you can run trial with some limited features. And if you're interested, then you can go ahead and maybe contact CA, or you can use it to pay directly on the web, and you can try it out. More detailed features of BlazeMeter. So to summarize, so BlazeMeter is an agile, on-demand, SaaS-based performance testing solution. It's open source compatible. It supports JMeter, but in addition to that, it supports 9 other open source tools like Locus, Gatling, scalable for mobile and web applications, and it's fully integrated with CI for shifting performance to the left, testing to the left, and as well as with APM tools to provide a deeper understanding as where your bottlenecks are so that they can quickly solve the problem. So with that quick intro, I would like to spend maybe next 10 minutes or so to walk you through a quick demo. So this is blazemeter.com, and if you log in, you can do start testing now. That'll go through a trial a sign up screen. And what I'll do here is I have this web application called blazedemo.com. It's basically a flight booking sample demo app, and I'll run some performance test on it. And I don't have any JMeter scripts created. Oh, what happened? I'm sorry. Oh, was that happening for slides as well? No. Okay. Okay. I didn't even move it. I'm sorry about that. So to go to BlazeMeter, www.blazemeter.com, and I've already signed up. Otherwise, you would see a sign up here, and then you can get started. But let me go to my tests. I don't have any JMeter tests created, so what I'll do, I did run a few tests, but I will go ahead and create some automatically through recording. But before I do that, as you can see here, you can add a JMeter test. So if you're already using JMeter, you can reuse those JMeter scripts to run it in the cloud. You can just drag and drop or upload it, and along with that, you can provide some data, either in the form of CSV or jar files that may be used. And we support a variety of different versions of JMeter, variety of different Java versions, and you can integrate with various APM solutions like CAPM, New Relic, or Dynatrace, App Dynamics to get deeper insight into your application performance. And it's various reports. So let me go ahead and quickly create JMeter test. So you can do it multiple ways. You can, of course, if you use JMeter, you can use those scripts, or you can use the recorder, which is a proxy similar to how JMeter does. You set up a proxy and works with all multiple different browsers. I'm running Chrome. With Chrome, we also have what we call the Chrome plugin. And with Chrome plugin, what I'll do, I'll go ahead and say maybe JMeter test 4 something. And I'll go and do a recording, and maybe I'll set up this advanced options. I'll say edit settings before I run the test from here directly so that I can pick and choose some of the options, and I can walk you through. Maybe not do Ireland, maybe do something here in the US, US East Virginia, and start recording. So when I do that, now my plugin is active. I can go to blazedemo.com, and it'll start picking up all the requests. So it's basically a simple demo. I pick find my flights from, choose some flight, and specify some account details here, and purchase. So once this is complete, I can see that there are 4 transactions that it was able to capture, and I can stop my recording, and I can, from here, directly try to play it in BlazeMeter. So it will go ahead and transfer the recording as a JMeter JMX. It will not run because I told it not to run it immediately. I want to verify the configuration. So let's look at the configuration. So in the test configuration, I can see my recording.jmx. I can also see that these are, I can set up how many number of users. Maybe I'll do a number of engines. So maybe 2 engines or maybe 6 engines here. Let's do. Set it to 2. 50 threads, ramp up time 600 milliseconds, and or 600 seconds, and iterations, how many, and then run it for 20 minutes. So with that, I can save it. I can also pick where I want to run it from here and then do it. But now that it's saved, I can run my test here and then launch my servers. So what this will do, it'll go to AWS in Virginia, and then it'll spun up the servers, put the script there, and start throwing load into my application. Any question when this thing comes up? It'll probably take a couple of minutes before it's started fully and starting to see some results. Pardon? Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. So when I was in test configuration, on the right side there were some sliding bars. The first one was around how many engines I want to start, and the second one was number of threads. So depending on, that's basically engines times threads gives you the number of virtual users that will be kicking off simultaneously. And you can specify ramp up time, whether you want to ramp up or you want to have stair types of ramping up. And it supports a lot of the JMeter plugins that allows you to specify type of loads and type of number of threads, number of virtual users, and so on.
What's the difference between engines and users? Engines and users.
Oh, engines and users. Engines are basically the load generators, and then each engine can have multiple threads. So each thread is essentially a virtual user. So each thread will send a request, right? So if I have 2 engines and I have 50 threads each, that means 100 virtual users. So I have the engines up, and it's ready, and it'll start testing, sending load in a few seconds here. So how many of you use JMeter today for testing in your app? What do you use for testing, performance testing? I mean, HP, LoadRunner, QTP, ViewGen. Are you liking it? What are some of the challenges you're seeing there? The cost, yeah, of course. That's definitely a big challenge. But in addition to that, there are some other challenges. There are a number of different customers that I cannot mention names here who are actually moving from legacy, I don't want to say HP, but legacy testing, performance testing solutions. And the reasons are, of course, it is on-prem. HP did come up with solutions like Storm Runners to do something similar. But then it's, again, limited capabilities. It doesn't have the scalability. You still require services and support. So this is easy to try, easy to kind of go ahead, unless you have a really complex JMeter script that you want to kind of run, or daily complex testing scenario that you want to do using JMeter. It's something that developers are very comfortable writing, testing it out. Right. So here the load testing has already started, and it'll ramp up slowly, and as time progresses, you can see the ramp up, and you can go into slower, smaller time duration and see test results. So there are, as I mentioned earlier, multiple different reports. This is the summary report, the load and the response time for each request. And then there is the timeline report that gives you, based on various URLs, how they are performing and things like that. So if you're specifically interested in how it's doing under purchase or reservation, you can see that over a period of time. If you want to see maybe a particular time area, then you can also zoom in. Then there is the load report, and kind of giving you load over time, request stats, engine health, errors, and log files. I can directly see logs. So I had 2 engines, or 3 engines. Maybe this is where you see the 3 here. You can also create a summary, executive summary report that gives you, this is what can be sent to managers to kind of show, okay, how did the performance test perform in terms of throughput, response time, and some other stats here. Any questions? Nope. So next what I want to show you is around other types of tests, right? This is a URL, API URL test. If I want to go directly to the URL, I can specify http:// blazedemo.com, and then I can enter, maybe this is a URL, test 3, and name it. Save it. And so this is where the engines or threads. I can also have the sandbox mode when I'm trying to test. It'll just go and then will not spin up individual sites, but use the sandbox to run it. And I can then run it. I can go ahead and launch the servers. So it's as simple as that. It takes less than 10 minutes to sign up and then get started on using BlazeMeter. Any questions? Good. So I have some additional brochures here if you are interested to take. We had a lab session on Monday on this. And if you would like to take, have a few copies of the lab guides. If you want to take it for your developers, testers to try it out, please feel free to do so. Yeah. Yes, a very good question. So there are two parts to it, right? So what BlazeMeter provides you, it lets you know where the test failed, right? When I went to the timeline report here, let's see. It gives you an understanding of each of these URLs. How are they performing, right? I mean, if any of the tests takes more time than the threshold, then what you can do, if you have integrations with APM tools, then you can go into the details from the data that's provided by the APM tool integration to identify which code, which piece of the code, or which query actually didn't meet the threshold, performance threshold that you're expecting. And that's where you can then go and look into that in more detail. But oh yes, yes, absolutely. So it supports various APM tools. So Dynatrace APM and AppDynamics, New Relic, and CA APM. Any other questions? So good, thank you all for joining. And if you have questions, feel free to meet us at the booth. We have a BlazeMeter booth as well. And or if you want to have more demos, or if you want me to dive deep into any of the other areas, I can definitely walk you through that. Thank you.